At 76, King Charles finally opens up about Princess Diana, and what he reveals about her will leave you stunned. The world thought they knew their story, a royal romance turned tragedy, but behind closed doors, secrets remained buried. Until now. What has the king kept hidden for decades, and why is he revealing it now? Try not to gasp, because once you hear this, you might never see King Charles in the same light again. The unspoken confession. For decades, King Charles III avoided one topic above all others, his complicated, painful history with Princess Diana. But now, at 76 years old, time has forced his hand. The past he spent years trying to manage, reframe, and bury has finally caught up to him. Behind the grandeur of palace walls and royal duties, the king is said to be confronting a deep, unshakable realization, one that shadows his reign more than any policy, speech, or public appearance ever could. An exclusive tidbit from a trusted royal insider offers a stark summation. King Charles III was well on his way to only being remembered as the man who cheated on Princess Diana. But something has shifted. Allies close to the king describe him as eager to advise his oldest son, Prince William, warning, "Don't make the mistakes I made. Never lose sight of family." The underlying message is profound. Family must come before every royal duty. In an excerpt that sent ripples through the kingdom, it was revealed that Charles cautioned William after seeing how the pressures of royal life almost broke the future king's relationship with Kate Middleton. For those who closely observed Charles's path, this simple phrase uttered in private carries the weight of history. Decades earlier, his marriage to Diana Spencer began in a blaze of publicity. The young princess's charm and compassion drew admiration worldwide, yet the cracks that surfaced were impossible to hide. Charles's relationship with Camilla, his current queen consort, had never fully vanished, fueling years of gossip and heartbreak. Despite intense media scrutiny, the monarchy endured, but those storms left lingering effects on Charles's public image, and more importantly, on his own sense of self. Recent disclosures about Kate Middleton's health challenges underscored Charles's sense of urgency. When the Princess of Wales revealed her cancer diagnosis before thankfully confirming she was now cancer-free, the king was reminded of the fragility of life. Having faced his own health struggles in the same period, he firmly reiterated his plea to William. As both he and his son stand at critical crossroads, the king's message is clear. Put your family first. I neglected my marriage, and look what happened. For Charles, it was a deeply personal moment, an unspoken confession until now. All of this has set the stage for a revelation that begs attention. At 76, King Charles finally opens up about Princess Diana, confessing truths even his closest aides never expected to hear. It's time to tell the truth indeed. And this time, the monarch seems unwilling to hide behind the gilded mask of decorum. For a kingdom in transition, these admissions are nothing short of monumental. In the early part of his reign, Charles may have seemed determined to project a steady hand. State visits proceeded, ceremonial duties multiplied, and the monarchy pressed on with ritualistic precision. Yet beneath the jeweled crown, a father's concern grew day by day. His quiet interventions in William's marriage were just the beginning. Far from a public relations exercise, this was a man reckoning with the echoes of his past. With each word of caution, Charles appeared to peel back another layer of guarded silence, edging closer to vulnerability. A legacy in question. Long before the world fixated on the crown's next chapter, Charles was the Prince of Wales, navigating a labyrinth of expectations. Duty was the watchword, tradition the guiding principle. Every move was parsed by tabloids eager to uncover scandal. No slip went unnoticed, no misstep left unexploited. In such an atmosphere, even his most sincere sentiments seemed choreographed, fueling a narrative that he was aloof, disconnected, and tragically misunderstood. But behind palace walls, the real Charles was wrestling with a more complicated truth. During the tumultuous early years of his union with Diana, the prince struggled to reconcile personal desires with public obligations. Their marriage might have glittered in official photographs, but private tensions simmered. He was expected to produce heirs, represent the monarchy flawlessly, and perpetuate centuries of tradition. And yet, his heart remained elsewhere, tied to Camilla, a connection that not even an 8-month deployment could fully sever. That duality would haunt him for years. Even when he ascended to the throne, an event overshadowed by Queen Elizabeth II's unprecedented 70-year reign, critics questioned whether he could truly connect with the public. The specter of Princess Diana loomed large. She was the people's princess, beloved for her empathy and charm. He was cast as the distant, brooding husband who failed her, And now, at 76, that legacy weighs on him more than ever. For those within the palace, the shift has been undeniable. In private meetings, Charles has become more contemplative, often speaking candidly about the mistakes he made as a younger man. His confession that he just did duty resonates with staff members who recall how, in the throes of royal protocol, his personal attachments took second place. It's a haunting admission from a ruler whose life has been defined by formality. One courtier put it more plainly. For years, he spoke of regret in a vague, abstract way. But now, he's acknowledging specifics. Diana, his marriage, the choices he made. He knows history won't be kind, and he's feeling it. Camilla's presence as queen consort adds complexity to this reckoning. Their relationship, once maligned as scandalous, is now cast in a more sympathetic light. Palace sources describe how Camilla quietly supports Charles's desire to speak candidly about his past. Yet skepticism abounds. After all, for years she was considered the reason Diana's fairy tale romance disintegrated. Some question whether her involvement could inadvertently reignite old resentments. And still, Charles presses forward, determined to guide William and Kate away from similar pitfalls. The king's reference to family first isn't a convenient PR move. Those close to him interpret this as a form of atonement, a chance to steer the next generation along a steadier path than he walked. This extends beyond simple fatherly advice. It's a genuine effort to ensure that the monarchy, especially William, doesn't buckle under personal heartbreak as it once nearly did. But the echoes of history are deafening, and Charles knows he can't outrun the past forever. As these whispers of remorse spread, some question whether it's too late for a reappraisal of Charles's image. The public memory is long, particularly where Diana is concerned. To many, she remains an enduring symbol of kindness wronged. Yet the emergence of his confessions, how he wishes he had devoted more time to nurturing his first marriage and less to meeting ceremonial expectations, offers a rare insight. The monarchy's future hinges not only on William's readiness to rule, but also on Charles's ability to reconcile with the past. If his regrets fall on deaf ears, he may forever be remembered as the man who cheated on Princess Diana. Threads of remorse. Even before King Charles III uttered a single word of regret, the public suspected he harbored unspoken remorse. Paparazzi snapshots caught fleeting moments, a pensive gaze, a heavy sigh that hinted at regret beneath royal composure. But regret has a way of surfacing. And behind palace walls, Charles has slowly begun to acknowledge the weight of the past, not just in whispers, but in action. Charles's quiet acknowledgement of failing Diana resonates as more than a personal confession. It's a subtle pivot for the monarchy at large. Since ascending the throne, he has navigated the intricacies of an institution wary of change. The monarchy thrives on stability, yet every sovereign brings a distinct mark. For Charles, that mark is his willingness to address uncomfortable truths. Close aides describe a man torn between upholding royal tradition and forging a new path that might finally let him put old ghosts to rest. "I just did duty." He has repeated this phrase in private discussions, a haunting acknowledgement that, for decades, he prioritized the crown over personal relationships. And that duty-first mentality cost him dearly. Palace insiders speak of meetings where Charles insists on frank discussions about the monarchy's failings. Topics once considered off-limits, like the emotional welfare of high-ranking royals, are now front and center. His own experiences with Diana and their fractured marriage have shaped his belief that future generations must not repeat the same mistakes. This shift mirrors a larger societal move toward openness about mental health. For Charles, it's also an attempt to ensure that William and Kate's children won't inherit the burdens he once bore in silence. However, the king's willingness to address past mistakes does not equate to a complete airing of old grievances. He remains circumspect about the most painful chapters of his life, speaking in broad strokes rather than explicit detail. He knows the risks of dredging up the past: public backlash, renewed scrutiny, and potential friction within the royal household, especially with Camilla now by his side. Indeed, even mild revelations about his regrets provoke heated debates within palace circles. Yet for Charles, this reckoning isn't just about Diana, it's about the monarchy's survival. Never lose sight of family. This phrase, directed at Prince William, echoes his own regrets as a husband and father. It's a warning, one meant to steer his son away from the same pitfalls that defined Charles's past. But even as he mentors William, a painful reality lingers. His other son, Prince Harry, remains estranged. The monarchy's critics highlight that family discord has re-emerged in another form. Charles, mindful of his role as father and king, has tried to stay neutral, but the fractious relationship with his younger son remains an open wound. Nevertheless, the shadow of Diana hangs over both relationships, though in vastly different ways. While William embodies her sense of duty, Harry has followed her path of emotional rebellion, breaking free from the institution rather than working to reform it from within. For Charles, each attempt at reconciliation serves as another opportunity for Charles to reflect on whether he's truly broken free of the old pattern of neglect. Did Diana's pain shape Harry's discontent? Did Charles's emotional distance push his younger son away? These are the questions he grapples with, knowing that even as he acknowledges the past, the future remains uncertain. Through it all, Diana's legacy remains a thread woven through every decision, every statement, every private moment of reflection. Their marriage, once the bedrock of monarchy renewal, became its biggest scandal. And now that scandal, transformed into a cautionary tale, may guide the institution toward greater empathy. With each candid admission, Charles draws closer to a point of no return, where the monarchy either evolves to embrace genuine emotional depth or risks collapsing under the weight of secrets that have loomed for far too long. Bound by duty, haunted by desire. From childhood, Charles was steeped in the doctrine of duty. State engagements, public ceremonies, and strict adherence to protocol formed the pillars of his upbringing. The notion of personal happiness often stood in direct conflict with the monarchy's demands. This tension grew more pronounced after his marriage to Diana. She was adored, radiant, the fairy tale princess the world embraced. But behind palace doors, their relationship was less a love story and more a strategic arrangement. The public saw the dazzling photographs, yet the emotional chasm between them widened with every passing year. Don't make the mistakes I made. Charles's warning to Prince William has become a refrain, one that reveals more than it conceals. For decades, he accepted his fate without question, submitting wholeheartedly to the monarchy's unyielding structure. But now, at 76, Charles has begun to reevaluate the cost of his choices. He seems to acknowledge a harsh reality. The monarchy's priorities can overshadow genuine human needs. It is a rare reversal from a man who once embodied the very ethos of obligation above all. But when did this shift truly begin? Charles's transformation followed years of introspection, helped along, some say, by the unwavering support of Camilla during their later marriage. Ironically, the very woman at the heart of the early scandal provided a steady hand when his role as heir turned burdensome. Others believe it was seeing the weight of royal expectations settle on his own sons that forced him to reconsider his past. Some argue that this shift toward emotional candor might never have taken root had Diana not thrust it into the public arena. She was the one who first spoke openly about struggles within the marriage, forcing the royal family to confront the one thing it feared most: vulnerability. Charles's present openness may be the fruit of a seed Diana planted long ago. In that sense, her influence continues to guide a monarchy she once graced. Still, the king's confessions face skepticism. Detractors accuse him of rewriting history, suggesting that his newly minted remorse is a tactical move to reclaim public favor. Others see a man genuinely wrestling with the ramifications of his youth. Regardless of motive, these revelations place Charles in uncharted territory. A monarchy that once prided itself on stoic composure is now watching its leading figure openly wrestle with the emotional cost of adherence to duty. For William, the message couldn't be clearer. Never lose sight of the people you love. That echoes in every public appearance, every heartfelt interaction with Kate and their children. Charles has signaled he wants to break the cycle that once left him trapped by guiding William toward a more balanced approach, one that values personal devotion as much as ceremonial obligation. He hopes to recalibrate the monarchy's future. Yet the question lingers. Can these personal lessons truly reshape an institution that has, for centuries, thrived on discipline and detachment? For all his efforts at reform, Charles is still bound by the very institution he seeks to reshape. The monarchy has survived wars, betrayals, and shifting societal tides, but can it survive the reckoning of its own humanity? Or will Charles's regrets remain just that, the whispered confessions of a king whose change came too late? Fractures beneath the crown. For the royal family, unity is more than a virtue, it's survival. It's the armor shielding them from relentless public gaze. When fractures appear, they threaten to expose vulnerabilities that conflict with the monarchy's curated image. In recent years, the biggest sign of such discord came from Prince Harry's decision to step back from royal duties. While this rift spotlighted generational tensions, it also placed renewed focus on Charles's role as both father and king. For the first time, the reigning monarch was not only facing political challenges, but the unspoken reality that his own family was unraveling in front of him. Yet behind palace doors, there is another rift, one even more delicate, even more fraught with history. According to a royal aide, Camilla has been the biggest change in Charles's life. But she is also the greatest challenge when it comes to his sons. Speculation soared that Camilla wielded a guiding hand in Charles's cautious approach to Harry's exit. Harry, in his memoir, cast doubt on Camilla's motives, implying that her influence was not always benign. This narrative fueled the ongoing debate about how much power she exerts. Some insiders claim her guidance keeps Charles from making impulsive decisions. Others argue that her ambitions alienate him from his sons, echoing historical missteps that once tore the family apart. Even William, typically the dutiful prince, has shown subtle signs of discomfort over Camilla's heightened position. Unlike Harry, William does not speak openly about his reservations regarding Camilla. But those who pay close attention notice the signs. Even as the monarchy projects a sense of unity, the signs are there. A slight stiffness when they stand side by side at royal engagements. A subtle distance when Camilla is mentioned in an interview. For William, whose loyalty to Diana remains fierce, embracing Camilla as queen consort is no simple matter. Tension arises whenever past wounds surface, especially those linked to his mother's emotional hardship. To the public, the monarchy projects unity. But to those who have watched the family's transformation up close, it is clear that William and Harry's wounds remain raw, and Camilla's presence, however graceful, does not ease them. These familial strains feed into a broader conversation about Charles's legacy. If his reign is to be characterized by reflection and reconciliation, he must navigate entrenched differences. On one hand, he is the patriarch, compelled to unify his children. On the other, he remains tethered to his controversial love story with Camilla. Balancing these factors tests Charles's capacity to lead with empathy and tact, a challenge only amplified by public scrutiny. Close confidants suggest that Charles is privately more torn than he lets on. He recognizes Harry's grievances, particularly where the younger prince felt unsupported in the face of media hostility, yet struggles to contain the fallout from explosive interviews. Meanwhile, William remains the monarchy's cornerstone, groomed to inherit the throne but wary of repeating old patterns. Their father, aware of his own failings, seeks to ensure that bitterness doesn't rip apart the royal lineage. Within all this turbulence, there is an undeniable irony. Charles once saw Camilla as the solution to the emotional void left by a loveless arrangement, but her presence now amplifies certain rifts. As queen, her visibility has soared, placing a spotlight on every interaction and slight. Critics argue that her approach, however supportive it may be of Charles, lacks the diplomatic finesse needed to soothe frayed relationships among his sons. For Harry, the damage is perhaps irreparable. For William, the tension is a wound never quite closed. Aides say Charles desperately wants harmony, yet he hesitates to challenge Camilla's role in his life. He cannot rewrite the past, but he also cannot ignore the very real fractures within his family. The monarchy's fortitude has always relied on its ability to project steadiness amid chaos. However, modern times demand something else: authenticity, vulnerability, and the courage to acknowledge old wounds. The king wants to unify his family, but can a man who once shattered unity now be the one to mend it? As Charles grapples with this contradiction, his reign is no longer just about governance and ceremony. It is about whether he can finally confront the personal ghosts that still linger within the halls of the palace, and more importantly, whether his sons will ever let him truly mend the fractures beneath the crown. Reckoning with the past. Confronting the past can be unsettling, but for King Charles, who's already 76, it has become a necessary step. The monarchy's longevity depends on its capacity to learn from old mistakes. In private, Charles has divulged more than a few regrets, dwelling particularly on how his decisions impacted Princess Diana. Though he refrains from dissecting the details of her life and death, already etched into public consciousness, he does reflect on the emotional gap that defined their marriage. Some of Charles's closest associates whisper that his nightly reading includes letters and diaries, recounting the pressures that shaped his youth. He was raised to serve the crown above all else, but in doing so, he sacrificed personal happiness. His growing awareness of this glaring contradiction has led to quiet admissions of remorse, particularly in conversations with William. More than once, Charles has warned his eldest son, "Put family first. Don't make my mistakes." This shift is no coincidence. Having endured a loveless marriage overshadowed by royal obligation, Charles is determined to ensure William and Kate do not suffer the same fate. Yet for all his reflections, some argue it is too little, too late. The wounds of Diana's heartbreak run too deep, and her shadow still looms over his reign. Even with Camilla by his side, public sentiment remains divided. Some accept their union as a love story that finally found its time, while others still view it as a betrayal that never should have been forgiven. One undeniable truth remains. Diana changed the monarchy. Her openness, her emotional honesty, her ability to connect with people, all of it forced a shift in how royals engage with the world. If Charles has learned to embrace vulnerability, it is in no small part due to the lessons she left behind. But whether his belated reckoning can truly reshape his public legacy is another matter. To some, he will always be the man who cheated on Diana. To others, his introspection signals an evolution, proof that even a king, molded by tradition, can change in the face of history's judgment. In the end, history will decide. What remains clear is that Charles cannot undo the past, but he can choose how he is remembered, as a monarch who hid from regret, or one who finally had the courage to confront it. Do you think King Charles's reflection on his past will change public perception of him? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into royal secrets, don't forget to like and subscribe for more eye-opening content.